A deer, at the edge of the forest, suddenly stopped. There was no fear, no danger. Yet still, it stepped back. Scientists ask this very question: when everything is fine, why do living beings grow afraid of closeness? Humans are no different. A relationship starts to grow deep, and suddenly, one side pulls away. This is not a coincidence. It is a pattern, hidden within nature. Today, we will uncover this very secret. Tell us, where are you watching this video from? Write it in the comments. Welcome to Deep Pulse. Sarah remembers that night. Umar came close, exactly the way everyone wishes someone would. The conversations grew deeper, laughter, trust, everything that brings peace to the heart. Then, a week later, everything changed. Umar's replies started getting shorter. The meetings became less frequent. Sarah thought, maybe I did something wrong. But the truth was different. Umar later said, I got scared. Everything was going so well, and that's exactly what unsettled me. Strange, isn't it? The very thing that should make us happy is the thing that drives us away. This isn't just Sarah and Umar's story. This is the story of millions of people. Whether it's friendship, love, or family ties, as soon as closeness grows, one side begins to pull back, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly. The question is this weakness? Is this selfishness? Or is it something else? Psychologists say the answer isn't that simple. The human brain doesn't always take love as a sign of peace. Sometimes, for the brain, closeness becomes a warning, a silent alarm that says, don't open up too much. Where does this alarm come from? Is it a learned behavior, or an instinctive form of protection? In search of the answer, we'll need to step outside human behavior and into the animal world. There, the same pattern repeats, in different creatures, in different ways. And perhaps, that's where we'll find the real answer. But this is only half the story. In the next part, we'll see that this behavior isn't limited to humans alone. A group of wolves was studied. Scientists observed that when two wolves got very close to each other, one of them would suddenly separate. There was no fight. There was no danger. Yet still, a distance would form. Researchers named this protective distancing, meaning, even for animals, too much closeness becomes a kind of danger. Why? Because in nature, dependence can be a sign of weakness. The more one depends on another, the more one stands to lose if that bond breaks. The same has been observed in birds. Certain pairs become extremely close during mating season. Then suddenly, one bird flies far away. Scientists say this isn't fear, it's a calculation. The body, unconsciously, measures the likelihood of loss. And when that likelihood rises, distance appears on its own. Now think about it. Humans too are part of this same biological system. Our brain was shaped over millions of years of evolution, and that system still uses the same old rules today. When a relationship starts to grow very deep, a part of the brain sounds the alarm of danger. This part doesn't know that today's world is different. It simply repeats one old rule. More dependence, more danger. The interesting thing is, this reaction isn't the same in every person. Some people ignore this alarm. Some people pull back immediately. Where does this difference come from? If you want to know why this difference arises, subscribe to Deep Pulse, because the next part answers exactly this question. And that answer is far more personal than you think. The root of this difference is hidden in childhood. Psychologists gave a theory called attachment theory. This theory says, our experience of close relationships in childhood shapes the way we love once we grow up. A child who received consistent love grows up to see closeness as safe. But a child who witnessed uncertain love, sometimes close, sometimes distant, their brain learns a different lesson. The lesson is this: don't trust closeness, it can end suddenly. This lesson isn't conscious. It gets buried in the subconscious. And then, years later, when a new relationship starts to get very close, that same old lesson wakes up. The heart says, stay close. But that old part of the brain says, run before it hurts. This is why many people, right when a relationship is at its best, ruin it at that very moment. They themselves don't even know why. Umar did the same thing with Sarah. He later said, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a deep chasm. But this isn't just a story about childhood. There's another element too, one that makes this entire behavior even more complex. An element that ties together connection, fear, and survival, all three at once. And when you understand it, you might look at an old relationship of yours in a whole new light. What is that element? It isn't as simple as it seems. Inside the brain, there is a small part, called the amygdala. This part's job is to recognize danger. The interesting thing is, the amygdala can't tell the difference between physical danger and emotional danger. To it, a broken heart and a physical wound are nearly the same. When a relationship becomes very deep, the amygdala makes an estimate. If this person leaves, how great will the loss be? The greater the closeness, the greater the possible loss. And the greater the possible loss, the louder the alarm of danger. This is the very moment where love and fear meet in the same place. This isn't just theory. Brain scans have shown that when people think about their close partner, activity in the amygdala increases, almost exactly as it does in a dangerous situation. This is a protective system, not one working against love. But the problem is, this system sometimes becomes overly sensitive, especially in people who have suffered some deep loss in the past, divorce, betrayal, or the sudden loss of a loved one. After such experiences, the amygdala becomes even more alert. It starts to see every deep relationship as a possible threat, and the body, unconsciously, searches for one single solution: distance. That is why people who say, "I'm afraid of closeness," aren't actually afraid of love. They're afraid of the possibility of loss. This is an important distinction, because understanding the reason behind fear is the first step to controlling it. But one more layer still remains, because fear alone doesn't explain everything. Something else is happening too, something deeper. Fear alone doesn't tell the whole story. If fear were the only reason, then everyone who has ever been hurt would run from relationships. But that's not what happens. Many people, even after suffering great loss, fall deeply in love again. So then, where does the difference lie? The answer is hidden in one word: control. The human brain isn't only afraid of danger, it's afraid of having no say over that danger. Think about it. When a relationship becomes very deep, your happiness, to some extent, moves into the other person's hands. This very feeling is unbearable for many people. Humans, by nature, want control over their own lives, and love, in its depth, hands that control over to someone else. This is the contradiction. The heart wants to connect, the brain wants control, and when these two collide, pulling back seems like the easiest path. Here's another interesting thing. Researchers found that people who feel uncertainty in other areas of their life, job, money, the future, also pull back more in relationships. Why? Because when many parts of life are uncertain, the brain wants control in at least one place, and distance from the relationship gives it that false sense of control. So this isn't just a story about old wounds, it's also a story about the pressures of present-day life. Fear, the past, and present insecurity. All three combine to produce the same result: distance. But the real surprise is still to come, because the thing that ties this entire behavior together is so simple that most people overlook it. And once you understand it, you will never look at relationships the same way again. That simple thing is this: pulling back isn't a lack of love, it's a sign of the depth of love. Think about it. The body runs from the very thing it cares about the most. If a relationship holds no importance, the brain never sounds the alarm. The alarm only rings when the possibility of loss truly matters. Meaning, the more a person pulls back, the more proof there is that the relationship mattered to them. This sounds strange to hear, but it is the truth. Months later, Umar explained this to Sarah. "I didn't create distance between us because I didn't care. I created that distance because I cared too much." This one moment flips the entire story. What we call disloyalty or indifference is often, in reality, a broken protective system. A system that knows how to love, but never learned how to handle it safely. And here comes the most astonishing part. Scientists found that when two people understand this pattern, and talk about it openly, that same old alarm gradually grows weaker. The brain learns, this closeness isn't danger, it's a safe place. Meaning, this behavior isn't some permanent fate. It's a habit. And whatever is a habit can be changed. Understanding doesn't erase fear, but it turns fear from an enemy into an understandable guide. And when both partners come to understand that distance is, in fact, a silent cry, "Reassure me," then, instead of breaking, the relationship begins to grow stronger. This is the truth that most people never come to know. Pulling back isn't the end of love. It is often proof of the depth of love. Whoever understands fear can learn to master it. Next time someone comes close and then pulls away, remember, perhaps they are afraid, not fleeing. If this video made something clear to you, subscribe to Deep Pulse. The next story is coming soon.